and you like to think. If you don't think, I don't think you can write poems. Seperti Djoko Damono, for example. Ya, panas terasa sampai ke bulu-bulu mata. How can you imagine that?
Welcome to the second episode of TIL, ya, Talk to You Literature. Pertama-tama terima kasih buat teman-teman sekalian yang minggu lalu udah mendengarkan ya. Di episode sebelumnya kita udah ngebahas tentang karakter, characterization, and then how did the writer put it in a script gitu. Di script tuh nulisnya gimana sih? Terus efeknya pas lagi udah di onset itu what kind of changes yang kemungkinan terjadi. Nah itu kemarin kita udah bahas itu. Terus minggu ini ya minggu ini kita bakal ngomongin soal poetry. Nah puisi nih yang diomongin puisi kayak kalau nanyain anak sastra gitu ya, nanyain anak jurusan literature kayak wah ngambil kuliah apa ya, ngambil kuliahnya sastra, wah langsung mau jadi Rangga ya, mau jadi penulis puisi ya, biasanya kan pikirannya seperti itu ya. Tapi hari ini kita mau ngebahas lebih gitu kayak sebenarnya puisi itu unsur-unsurnya apa aja. Terus tapi hari ini sih kita bakal lebih spesifik membahas yang paling sering dibahas kalau lagi ngebahas puisi, yaitu masalah connotation, denotation, kayak it sounds so old school, tapi sebenarnya nanti kita bakal ngebahas itu lebih lanjut sama special guest kita hari ini. Ya, jadi hari ini di episode kedua saya sudah kedatangan a very very special guest. Namanya adalah Pak Satya Limanta ya. I used to call him by the name Om Wiwi, tapi beliau dikenal dengan Pak Satya Limanta. Nah, mungkin tanpa berlama-lama langsung kita sambut aja our special guest today, Pak Satya Limanta. Halo.
Halo Putri, thanks for inviting me for your podcast episode. Yeah, it's Nona. And as Putri has mentioned, that my name is Satya Limanta. Yeah, and I'm a lecturer in the English department in Petra Christian University since 1997 actually. So it's quite a bit long time.
1997.
Yeah. That's the short of me. Okay. What else do you want to dig?
What else do you want to dig? Sebenarnya ya alasannya saya mengundang ya Pak Satya hari ini adalah bukan semerta-merta karena Pak Satya nih wah ini dosen bahasa Inggris gitu ya, bukan, tapi sebenarnya saya tertarik banget karena Pak Satya ini juga menulis buku, menulis puisi ya yang sudah dibukukan, diterbitkan. Nah itu tentang apa sih Pak? Maksudnya puisinya apa aja gitu, mungkin bisa diperlihatkan ke teman-teman podcast sekalian.
You want to see the cover of the book?
Boleh silakan.
Okay, let me share screen then. You disabled me for sharing the screen.
Coba. Apakah sekarang sudah bisa?
Let me. Okay, yes, I can do that. Okay, so let me share this. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is the cover of the book. Yeah, so it is published by minor publisher, of course, because probably you never heard of Sastro Gambar. Okay, so it's like indie publishing.
Indie publishing.
Yeah, and then this design and all of the poems are given illustration, and they are done by a colleague of mine in the DKV department, yeah. So this Comfis, yeah. And the title is Tiga Tak Tahu Diri. Okay. So actually, I don't write the book myself, so we co-write, yeah. So this is the authors, Ribut Basuki, that's me, and then Pak Dwi Setiawan, okay. And what is great about this is actually it is given introduction by Pak Budita. We call it Tidak Tak Tahu Diri, ya, Tiga Tak Tahu Diri, because actually we don't consider ourselves to be poets, ya. Yeah, at least not in the sense of professional poets, ya. but we dare to write poems anyhow. So that's why we call ourselves Tiga Tak Tahu Diri. And there is a reference actually why we call it Tiga Tak Tahu Diri, because there are the three musketeers, yeah. And in our Prakata here, later on there is Prakata. That's Prakata written by the authors, and especially actually mostly done by me and suggested by the other two authors. We have the reference to that. That is three musketeers, and then we call ourselves three musketeer.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. It's quite interesting. Nanti kita akan membahas satu puisi kali ya dari buku tersebut.
Okay.
Nanti kita pilih satu, and we're going to talk a bit about the poem itself. Okay. Tapi sebelum ke situ nih, I would like to ask a very cliche question gitu ya. Among other literature genre gitu kan, ada play, ada fiction gitu. Why poetry?
Yeah, that's also a good question. Yeah, why poetry? Yeah, first of all, actually, the genre, either poetry or drama or fiction, actually it suits your personality. Yeah. So if you ask why poetry, because first of all, poetry is contemplative. So when you write poetry, you need to contemplate. So you cannot just write. It's quite different when you write fiction, short story or novel, for example. Then, you need to gather a lot of experience, and then you try to reformulate it in a narrative form. But here in the poetry writing, then you need to think, to contemplate. So that's why that's poetry, because. And the other reason is, of course, in poetry you don't need to write long narrative stories. So usually poetry is short, and then you can read it also in one reading, in one sitting. So probably in 1 hour you can read the whole book. That is impossible to read a novel, right? So probably you need 3 days to 5 days to 7 days, but not with poetry. But anyhow, that's the two main reasons.
Okay. Berarti dia lebih reflektif, and then also it have to be very concise berarti ya. Betapa refleksi yang tadi itu dipepatkan dalam satu puisi yang that's quite a skill sebenarnya ya. Mungkin kalau di novel atau di cerpen tuh bisa dideskripsikan panjang lebar gitu ya. But I see. Jadi kalau dari puisi lebih intisarinya gitu, lebih dituliskan lebih concise. Okay. Here's another question yang mengenai poetry gitu. Sometimes people imagine that poetry is just about putting down all your feeling, and that's all you need to do gitu, and then it's valid gitu, according to them, and then they consider then that should be it gitu. Poetry, you just have to putting down all your feeling. But is that the case actually, atau sebenarnya dalam penulisan puisi itu it's more than that gitu? Mungkin kalau menurut Pak Satya gimana?
There is the element of truth in the statement, but that is not totally true, because there are many types of genre in poetry. So for example, if you read T.S. Eliot, and T.S. Eliot is not just about feeling, it's about thinking, it's about philosophical thinking. So and the other genre, for example, the romanticism, for example, that is quite true for romanticism, but that is not always the case. So poetry is not only about feeling, but it can be also about thinking. It's about reflection. That's my word, reflection.
Okay, so well, it's true, but it's not quite true berarti ya.
Right, not totally true.
Not totally true, mungkin setengah. Okay. Kayak tadi udah mulai membahas beberapa poet ya, kayak T.S. Eliot and so on. Tapi ini sebenarnya di episode hari ini tuh saya pengen banget ngebahas satu puisi gitu ya, yang kayaknya semua orang udah bakal bahas puisi ini deh gitu. So sebentar ya, ini saya coba untuk share screen. Sebentar. Okay, so today we are going to look at a new take on a long admired American poem. Yeah, so two roads diverge in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler long I stood. Kayak ini orang-orang kalau yang ngambil kelas bahasa Inggris kayak biasanya so accustomed with this poem. So it's called The Road Not Taken. Nah, baru-baru ini ya, kayaknya kalau misalnya ngebahas puisi The Road Not Taken itu yang paling sama yang seperti yang tadi di introduction ya, kayak yang sering dibahas itu roadnya itu sendiri gimana gitu ya, kayak usually the discussion would be about denotation and connotation. Jadi sebenarnya roadnya itu menggambarkan apa sih and so on gitu. Nah mungkin sebelum masuk lebih lanjutnya, saya ingin tahu dulu nih dari Pak Satya ya, melihat roadnya di sini tuh seperti apa gitu.
Yeah, okay. Well, actually, even though our topic is about connotation and denotation, but actually, I would like to say something about that, because actually when we talk about poetry, we should talk more about the connotation instead of denotation, because if you discuss denotation, that would be news on the newspaper. So actually there's only one meaning in poetry, that is connotation. Oke. Harusnya tentang connotation-nya ya. Oke, dari kata roadnya sendiri itu dari connotation-nya itu melihatnya seperti apa, possibilities-nya tuh ada apa aja sih gitu. Okay. So the term road here can refers to something else, of course, because it can be a symbol, it can be a metaphor, things like that. Anyhow, the two roads can represent about the way that someone should take. Okay, so for example, if you want to before you graduate and then you are confused, right? What job you would like to take, for example, and then say for example, then you are offered two positions. Then so this kind of roads probably can replace that kind of situation. So which one should I choose? If we read about Robert Frost, then we know that actually Robert Frost was also a farmer. So there was a time in his life that he needed to choose which one that he wanted to pursue. Should he go on with farming life as a farmer, or should he become a poet? Okay, so that's kind of question that is quite existential question. Which one? Okay, so that's probably roughly the meaning of the two roads here.
Okay. So recently when I was researching about this poem gitu ya, saya sempat lihat-lihat beberapa interview and so on. So I came to this very interesting interview gitu ya recently. So it was Robert Frost ya. Ini jadi baru-baru ini tuh saya melihat atau saya baru menonton interviewnya David Orr. So David Orr is a poetry columnist from the New York Times, and then I think as he says this is one of the rare poems that gets into mainstream culture kayak The Road's Not Taken ini. However, baru-baru ini beliau itu menuliskan sebuah buku yang berjudul The Road Not Taken, Finding in the Poem Everyone's Love and Almost Everyone Gets Wrong. Nah, ini mungkin namanya puisi ya, berarti kan interpretasinya bisa bermacam-macam. But I find this interpretation of the road itself is very interesting gitu ya, karena kita sering ngelihat roadnya ini different, dua-duanya different gitu ya, seperti yang tadi sempat kita bahas, pilihan hidup and so on, satunya pilihan A, satunya pilihan Z gitu, something that is different and you have to choose one. Tapi David Orr comes with the idea that okay, so sometimes, as I quoted from him, sometimes people forget the middle part of the poem itself, gitu. Though, as for that, the passing there had warned them really about the same. And both that morning equally late, in leaves no step had trodden blackberry. According to him, the two road is actually the same, gitu, in the same way. It's not it doesn't represent a big difference atau consequences that we used to think about gitu, yang something kayak satunya pilihan A yang bakal beda banget dan yang satunya pilihan B gitu. So in your opinion, would you agree with that in the way he sees this poem?
Actually, there is a point from him, but actually, when we say something, a word, for example, difference or the same, sameness, so we need to clarify the terms, what we are talking about, what we mean with this, the word different or the same. So, in my opinion, of course, the middle part of this poem actually shows that actually the two roads are both inviting. So, of course. And we check the final end of the poem, then we know for sure that if you choose one path, and then the result will be different. So that is the meaning of different in the first place. So even though both are inviting, so it must end in a different result. That's for sure. We cannot deny that. And when we say that actually it's just the same in the sense that both provide opportunities. In that sense, then I agree. So both both road offer, both roads offer opportunities. So in that sense, so it is the same. Yeah, that's quite true.
Would it be fair atau would it be okay to say that well, actually the two roads are at least interchangeable, right? Things like that.
What do you mean by interchangeable? Because the two roads are different roads, of course, even though both are same in the sense that both are inviting. Yeah.
Okay, so both are inviting.
We need to clarify anything when we speak, right? When we use any word.
Okay. So it's quite interesting, in the way in his book, well, through the interview, he stated that actually it doesn't matter which one that you take, because the fact that they're the same, but well, it's quite interesting as well to see your opinion that you still see the two roads are actually two different things, but yeah, it's quite interesting. Balik lagi mengenai connotation, denotation. Nah, kalau denotation mungkin itu makna aslinya, we're not going to discuss further on that, tapi mungkin ke konotasinya sendiri. Nah, ini tadi kita mencontohkan dari satu puisi yang sering dibahas, yang sering kita dengar di speech graduation and so on. Nah, kalau membahas connotationnya sendiri itu dari kacamata Pak Satya, as well, you wrote a poem, then I would consider you are a poet, as a poet dan pengajar juga gitu. Sejauh apa sih konotasi gitu itu bisa dimain-mainin gitu? To what extent a poet can play with it gitu?
To unlimited extent. That's the short answer.
To unlimited.
So actually, you are right that the power of poem or poetry lies on the use of figurative language and we call it imagery. So there are many types of figurative languages that we can use. So when you ask to what extent, I say unlimited extent, because we can play with language. We can combine two different words that unlikely to combine in daily life. So unlikely
to combine. Nah, itu menarik ini. Unlikely to combine, ada contohnya nggak nih?
Yeah, for example, if you read the poems of Sapati Djoko Damono, for example, ya, panas terasa sampai ke bulu-bulu mata. How can you imagine that? For example, right?
Betul banget. Ya sampai ke. But well, that's the art ya, I guess ya, untuk mengolah semuanya itu ya berarti ya. Oke. Nah, menyambung yang tadi bahwa menulis puisi itu tidak sekedar pouring feelings and stuff. Nah ini kira-kira bagaimana atau what's the first step gitu untuk kita bisa peka ya memadupadankan kata-kata yang tadi dalam tanda kutip sebenarnya kayak nggak nyambung ya, panas kok ke bulu mata. Nah itu mengasahnya first stepnya apa ya to be that sensible gitu.
Okay, that's a very good and critical question. Well, that's why at least I don't call myself as a professional poet, because just not like the one that is the professional poet, they write poems not limited by mood. What I did, I write when I get touched by something. Get touched by something. So in Heidegger's sense, probably Befindlichkeit. Yeah. So if you get touched incredibly by something, then you can write something. Okay, that's what happened to me. So, but it is not the professional poet, because they just write. So they are productive. So that's what I call as professional poet. So the first step is, of course, you should write language. You like words, you like playing with words, and you like to think. If you don't think, I don't think you can write poems.
Bagus itu tadi. Benar. Jadi nggak cuman pouring feeling, but actually as you have mentioned several times, poetry is about reflection and it shows our mind and so on. Jadi ya utamanya selain pingin curhat, tapi juga harusnya dibarengin dengan pemikiran ya, berarti buah-buah pemikirannya apa yang dipikirin and so on. Oke. Thank you for the tips ya. Terima kasih.
My pleasure.
Oh iya. Nah ini sekarang kita kayaknya lebih asik kalau langsung kita mau lihat atau kita mau ngulik puisinya Pak Satya. Ini tadi kita udah ngomongin puisi-puisi yang terkenal ya. Sekarang kita mau ngebahas satu deh dari puisinya Pak Satya yang tadi kayaknya saya lihat ada bahasa mimpi ya. Entitled like that ya. Mungkin would you mind to share it with us di sini?
Do you have that with you? If you have, then probably it's better for you to share screen, because sometimes I have difficulty to do that. I mean, it's troublesome. Yeah.
Boleh.
Can you show it?
Bisa. Oke, bahasa mimpi. Here it is. Share screen. Oke. Bahasa mimpi. Oke. Another cliche question. Ini awal mulanya ini tuh ideasnya dari mana gitu? How come you come up with this bahasa mimpi?
Can you show the year when it was written underneath?
Yes, sure.
That's important.
Nah, February 2001.
Yeah, 2001. So it means that was a long time ago, right? Yeah.
20 tahun yang lalu. Oke. Ini gimana nih konteksnya gimana? Tiba-tiba ada bahasa mimpi.
Right. So in this poem, so if you pay a careful attention and if you read my other poems, there are two keywords that are my favorite themes, or you can say almost my obsession. That is dream, that is mimpi, and the other one is illusion, ilusi. Those are two things that obsess me. Okay, so the topic of the theme of this poem is of course about love, actually, about love, and then it was about someone in the past perhaps that still haunted me at that time, perhaps. So it's like a dream. Actually, there was no reality any longer, and it's just like a dream. But what happened was that when I touched your fingers, and then I could speak a lot. Okay, so that the words mengalir, right? The words mengalir. But of course, then I say in the next line, sayang kau tak mengerti bahasanya, otakku sendiri juga beku. So it means like when when I'm in love, I can say many things, but sometimes I don't understand what I'm saying, right? Something like that. And then it's kind of dialogue, imaginary dialogue that, and then the other person said, maka kau katakan kau lucu ya. Mungkin kau benar. Nah, that's probably the persona of me. Mungkin kau benar bahwa aku orang asing di negeri di mana cinta maladanya dan sulit didapat. So there's a kind of reflection in which, in a more and more materialistic world, love is very rare to find. So that's why the other person said, probably I'm a funny guy because I'm trying to find love, quote unquote, because whatever it means, because people may interpret love in different ways, of course, right? And then of course, this is a kind of experience when you fall in love again, then you feel like everything is so imaginary, right? So something is not real, especially dan ketika ku hirup aroma rambutmu, kau menghilang, because actually it seems like the person is not real, right? So it's only in the memory, right? So I doubt myself, right? So are you the shadow or I am the shadow? So I'm not sure either whether I'm real or you are real, or which one? Are you shadow or I'm a shadow? Which one? It's not clear. So that's why I mentioned the theme of illusion and dream, right? Okay. And then the next dialogue, imaginary dialogue. Aku kan hanya mimpimu. Lupakah kau bahwa bahwa dulu aku hanya mampir sekejap untuk meminjamkan jariku untuk kau main-mainkan, katamu. So it's like the person saying that actually I'm only your dream. Yeah, that's true. That's only dream. That's only illusion. Probably because the trace of the past, right? And then when I touch her fingers, actually there was only a dream. Okay, and then I said, ya, aku tidak mungkin lupa, tapi ketika aku pulang, aku telah kehilangan jalannya, jadi aku tersesat di duniamu. Di duniamu, now this one, di duniamu here means in your dream world, okay. In other words, I wanted to say that actually, perhaps the word tersesat can be said intentionally or unintentionally there, because tersesat can mean both, okay. So I want to get lost in your dream, to stay there in your dream world, to be with you, right? Or I really get lost. Now get lost in the sense that I don't know which one is real, which one is illusionary, right? Okay. Yeah, and then kind of repeating the final stanza. Ketika aku sentuh jarimu dan hati mengerti bahasanya sendiri, biarpun itu sekedar mimpi. So it's okay. So if it's only a dream, it's only illusion, yeah. But anyhow, that's the language of the heart. Okay, that's it.
That's language of the heart. So,
in a nutshell.
Okay. Jadi sebenarnya yang dreaming siapa ini yang?
That's critical question. Actually, are you not dreaming? Are you sure that you are not dreaming right now when you are interviewing me? How do you know that? That's Descartes' question, right? With this method, meditation, right? You still remember that if you take history of Western philosophy, right?
Yeah. Well, in apa ya? As a response to your question, sebenarnya ini bukan baru-baru ini sih. There was this series gitu ya. It's a bit out of the topic, tapi kita lagi ngomongin masalah. Jadi sebenarnya siapa yang mimpi and which one is reality ini? Ada satu series yang saya cukup suka nontonnya itu, and then the title is Perception. Yeah, so this is a series about a professor of neurology or something gitu, kayak dia meneliti kayak how the mind works and so on. And I really remember di series itu dia selalu membuka episodenya itu dengan dia ngajar gitu. So and then he always ask critical questions gitu. Nah, related with your questions before, itu ada satu di episode pertama in the pilot project ya kasih pertanyaan gitu. So how do we know which one is real gitu? Because sometimes when you're dreaming, you actually feel like it was true, kan? Jadi ternyata yang ketika kita bermimpi itu sinyal yang dikirimkan ke saraf di otak itu senyata itu. Gitu. And then, so how do you choose which one is real? So how do you say kalau kan orang-orang suka bilang ya real itu yang bisa dilihat lah, yang bisa kita sentuh itu ya, kayak tangible object, so that's real, you can see it. But what if when you're dreaming, you also think that it is true when you are dreaming gitu kan? Karena begitu bangun juga kita terengah-engah juga, kita juga kayak worried juga and so on. So ternyata sinyal yang dikirimkan ke otak itu sama perceptionnya ketika ya both when we were dreaming and we're not dreaming. Jadi itu pertanyaan yang jawabannya bakalan terserah penonton ini ya. So, are you sure you're not dreaming when you're watching this podcast, or actually we're just talking in your dream then? Gitu berarti ya. Ya, quite interesting. Tapi ya sih. Nah, balik lagi. Mungkin ini satu pertanyaan. Apa ya? Pertanyaan penutup mungkin ya. Mungkin kalau misalnya dari yang penonton podcastnya gitu ya, karena topik kita tadi masih connotation and then in relation to denotation as well gitu. Connotation dan denotation ini kadang kan tadi maknanya bisa jauh banget, bisa yang bisa ya beda banget lah gitu. Nah, is there any way kalau tadi itu cara menuliskan puisi and explore the connotation, sekarang kalau kita sebagai pembaca nih, when we read a poem itu apakah ada tips, either any tips or tricks or something to grasp it, to grasp the meaning gitu, untuk tahu ini sebenarnya mau ngomong apa sih? Karena mungkin di beberapa puisi nggak se-vivid ini ya, kalau misalnya tadi yang di bahasa mimpi kan we get the sense of someone falling in love, and then there's a context when they talk to each other and then people are getting kayak crazy in love, itu ada sense itunya terasa gitu. Tapi kalau misalnya di beberapa puisi tertentu mungkin apa ya, it's so vague gitu, sampai nggak ini tentang apa ya. Nah itu mungkin ada nggak sih caranya gitu for us as a reader to grasp the meaning gitu?
Yeah, that's a very good question. First, of course, you need to use your imagination, yeah, because poetry is not about logic at all. Not at all. It's not only about logic. It's not only about logic, but it's not only either about feeling. So you need to use both, okay? And then again, imagination. You need to to try to connect, for example, the two things that are very unlikely to connect, then how the two words, for example, are connected. So if you read Sapardi Djoko Damono's poem again, so because Pak Sapardi is my favorite poet, so you will find words that are not really connected, but anyhow we try to connect them. Okay, so use your imagination. That's first. And the second thing is, when you read a poem, at first reading you don't understand, read again. If you don't understand in the second reading, read again. Third reading you don't understand, read again. Okay, of course that will be a challenge, right? To read the same thing again and again. But finally you will find that oh, so there is a eureka experience.
Berarti itu tadi ya, first you have to be very imaginative ya, in a way that open to all possibilities gitu, walaupun kata-katanya nggak nyambung gitu. Dan tidak ada cara lain ya selain kembali meresapi puisinya lagi dan lagi. Wow, it has been an interesting chat. It's not quite an interview, ini kayak kita lebih ke arah ngobrol. Nah ini terima kasih banget untuk insight-nya di episode hari ini. So I think that would be all. That sum up our discussion about Ya, tadi kita udah ngebahas gimana caranya explore, and then we also have discussed how to grasp the meaning and stuff. So, terima kasih sekali untuk waktunya, Pak Satya.
It's an honor for me to be your guest.
Okay, so untuk penonton podcast Still, thank you that you have memberikan waktu Anda memberikan waktunya untuk mendengarkan kita ngobrol-ngobrol soal poetry. So that would be all for this episode. I hope to see you again in next episode.
Bye bye.
Okay, so that would be all. Bye bye.